The thorny issue of loss and damage fund will again dominate the discussions.
Compensation for loss and damage is necessary. But equally important is prevention and financing for adaptation so that we can build climate resilience. We know that climate change is going to impact on food security, it's going to impact on water security, it's going to impact on health. And unless we start to invest now and we start to get help from the international community now to build climate resilience, then of course we are going to increasingly be in the loss and damage space, which is not a good place for any country to be.
Ministers responsible for the environment met in Abu Dhabi, where they adopted a resolution that will ensure a structure is established, and this structure will look at the implementation of the loss and damage fund.
Have we made progress or have we not made progress? Some people would say we're not making progress because we lack ambition. Other people would say we're not making progress because we lack implementation. And obviously, you're citing the example of finance. I mean, that is a major cause of distrust between developed and developing countries. We're now told that at COP28, the 100 billion will finally be realized. But we've been told that before, so we'll see. But I think that it's going to be very interesting to see whether the kind of support that developing countries need to realize their climate ambitions will be available. We know, for example, in our own country and on the African continent as a whole, we are getting hammered by climate change. We have just seen in the last couple of months storm surges in the Southern Cape. We've seen flooding in the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape. We're now in an extremely dry season. El Nino is predicted. Climatologists are debating, is this the one in 20-year drought or is this the one in 100-year drought? Judging by what happened in Western Europe and the Americas this past summer, where July was the hottest summer on record since measuring temperature began, we are worried about what is going to happen.
The Secretary General of the United Nations has lamented the slow pace in the implementation of programs aimed at addressing climate change.
Today's emissions gap report shows that if nothing changes, in 2030 emissions will be 22 gigatons higher than the 1.5 degree limit would allow. That's roughly the total present annual emissions of the USA, China and the EU combined. It shows greenhouse emissions reaching an all-time highs, a 1.2% increase on the last year, when those levels should be shooting down. And those emissions are shattering temperature records. June, July, August, September and October were all the hottest on record. Present trends are racing our planet down a dead-end 3-degree temperature rise. In short, the report shows that the emissions gap is more like an emissions canyon. A canyon littered with broken promises, broken lives, and broken records.
If you look at what happened in China 2021, they realized that they're short of power and they invested heavily more on coal because as a manufacturing giant of the world, they need reliable and cheap power. And they invested in coal heavily. But with the new coal-fired power stations, they bring the clean coal technologies that deals with the chimney gases. So the technology is available. Technology is there. We can use it as a country. It's widely available, and current boilers or current energy power stations in the country, we can apply this new technology or this technology that has been used for a while to minimize our pollution, our emissions to the atmosphere. So it can be done. We have the skills, and we have also private sector quite interested in investing in these technologies, because it's easier and quicker than developing a new power station that will give us power.
The cyclone season is fast approaching in the southern hemisphere. Countries in the south are preparing themselves for heavy rains that often lead to flooding, a familiar occurrence attributed to climate change. Sophie Mukwena, SABC News, Johannesburg.